Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll hear from the McCain Institute on the latest developments in the Iran war. Also tonight, a Diamondbacks executive will join us as baseball's regular season approaches, and we'll hear about an event recognizing women who are making an impact on their communities. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's day 20 of the U.S. and Israel's war on Iran. Latest reports are that 13 U.S. service members have been killed with more than 200 wounded. The war is sending oil prices toward $120 a barrel, and the Pentagon is now asking for $200 billion in funding for the war. That amount is nearly a quarter of the country's entire annual defense budget. For an update on these and other aspects of the war, we welcome Dr. Evelyn Farkas. She's Executive Director of the McCain Institute. Evelyn, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for being here. Let's get your thoughts, general thoughts on where the war stands now.
Yeah, Ted, I think we're in the middle of achieving the U.S. objectives, which essentially involved, first of all, making sure that Iraq couldn't lash out at its neighbors, at Israel. It couldn't use its proxies. And most importantly, that Iraq didn't have a nuclear weapons program. Now, we seem to have decimated the missile capability that Iran has. We have not eliminated the drone threat or the maritime threat, the threat to the Strait of Hormuz. And then most importantly, as I said, the nuclear material is still there in Iran and still available for the regime should they want to rebuild their nuclear weapons program.
Well, and that's what, like the intel reports, Evelyn, says that the Iranian regime is still intact. This is despite these massive bombing campaigns from the U.S. and Israel. And maybe, are we going to see U.S. troops on Karg Island or try to free up the Strait of Hormuz? This is a lot of treasure here and resource, and it sounds like we're in the middle of something that I think the administration thought would end pretty quickly.
Exactly. If you read between the lines of everything that President Trump has said, and even some of the things that, the media has said, officials have said, I think President Trump expected this to go the way the mission in Venezuela did. You use your military to achieve your objective, and then that's it. You kind of go home and let a more moderate regime take over. That's not what happened. The Iranian regime started to fight back, unlike the Venezuelans, right? And they created a new problem for us, which is these soaring oil prices because they started attacking tankers and oil facilities and natural gas facilities in the Gulf countries. So now we have another problem that our government has to solve. And
Yeah.
whether they'll send, troops there, that was one of your questions. That remains to be seen. I would like us to solve this problem diplomatically somehow to, convince this Iranian government that it's not in their interest to continue the war in this fashion, to continue to squeeze the oil industry and the prices because they're losing as well. But, I clearly it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that.
Well, and that it's the reason that the Middle East is a cauldron and the reason that there is so much going on over there is oil. It has always been there. It's always been the leverage used by certain countries and regimes in the region. Did we not see this happen? Did anyone not expect for this to happen as a result of such military action?
Well, all I can say is it's sort of like a failure to communicate or a failure to hear. Because if you followed, Ted, the intelligence community hearings that were held yesterday, and I didn't hear what happened today, but I know on the Senate side yesterday, they were talking about the fact that the intelligence community knew. There have been war games. I have participated in war games relative to Iran when General Mattis was the commander of the Central Command. And always, every scenario included the possibility that the Iranians would try to cut off the Strait of Hormuz. That was just a given. So clearly the intelligence specialists told the White House this, but somehow the White House didn't want to hear it or didn't hear it. I cannot believe that that wasn't part of a briefing. And of course, the military would have mentioned it as well.
Yeah, yeah. What's the impact of the administration? We've talked about this in the past. The administration bashing allies, bashing NATO. We're getting conflicting things out of the White House now. The president at one point wants some help, requesting help, expecting help, and then saying, no, we can do it alone. We don't need your help, and bashing NATO again. Where does all that play into all this?
Yeah, I mean, Ted, it's a little bit of the chickens coming home to roost because if you bash your allies, if you threaten to take their territory, Greenland, if you threaten to swallow one of them, Canada, if you suddenly slap punitive sanctions that they, out of the blue on them, and then you disrespect them in various ways, and you take away assistance from Ukraine, which they believe is existential to them. All of those things together mean when you want to turn around and ask them for something, they have their moment of kind of retribution. And the Europeans weren't consulted as clearly as we went into this war. And so they're also angry about that. And if you don't build your coalition in advance, it's very hard to run after people and say, "Wait, please be part of my coalition." And there are no apologies either forthcoming. So diplomacy is not that different from how you would deal with people.
Yeah.
And right now, it's not going very well.
Well, and obviously the price of oil is just going up and up and up. Talk about how that factors into global politics. And will this coalition come together? Because it has to, because oil is just simply too expensive.
Well, that's the other thing. So this second order effect, of us starting the war, meaning the squeeze on the oil prices, the increase of the prices, is hurting key allies of ours. Japan. I mean, the prime minister was in the Oval Office today. Japan is completely dependent on oil and gas from the Gulf area. And now they're facing, high prices. They already have economic pressures. Same thing, of course, with the Europeans who rely on the oil price and have been trying to actually push the oil price down so that Russia won't make money. And on top of all of this, President Trump turns around and gives the Russians carte blanche to sell about $10 billion a month for as long as this war goes on of oil, which means Russia's, lining its coffers to buy more equipment from China to wage more war against Ukraine.
Yeah, and I was going to ask about that because the lifting of sanctions on Russian oil, this is basically now funding Russia's war against Ukraine. And that's something that,
Correct.
I mean, I don't know. I did read something that I thought was fascinating, and that is the idea historically that we have had unrealized expectations for this particular region, I should say, and that we overestimate military power and military strength in a region where time is a weapon, and it doesn't seem, we're an impatient country, we're an impatient people, whereas over there, they got time. They can wait it out because they think we can't wait it out. That makes sense to you?
Yes. I mean, it's like, you heard it in different contexts, Vietnam and other contexts where you guys might be rich and you might have lots of fancy clocks, but we have the time.
Yes.
And I think that this is true in the, in the Gulf region. Frankly, I'm shocked actually that President Trump and his team didn't understand this because they came into office saying, we don't want to make these mistakes again. And then again, my interpretation is that they're coming out of Venezuela, there was a bit of hubris. There was an idea that, well, we did it so nicely and quickly and cleanly, even though we didn't, because we still have the old regime in Caracas running the place. But, from the outside, it looked okay. And of course, there were no ramifications. Because the oil out of Venezuela wasn't as significant, it was going mostly to China and it wasn't as much. It didn't cause an economic harm to our allies and friends and to the United States. But this is another level here because you're dealing with so much oil and gas passing through this narrow strait.
So last question, Evelyn. Is the war, as we stand right now, is this war backfiring on the United States?
So far it is, Ted, but as I said, I would caution us to just have a little bit of patience because our military objectives are not met yet. And the military, if we were to leave now, I'm not sure, it would end up having, us achieve all of the objectives we want to achieve. We would have to give up the nuclear objective. We would have to say, okay, it's too hard, and we'll have to deal with it diplomatically, which means that we would have waged this war, I would argue, not for nothing, but not for as much as what we really want is the nuclear, not the ballistic missiles.
Yeah. Evelyn Farkas, Dr. Farkas, McCain Institute Executive Director. Evelyn, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Anaya, host of Horizonte, the groundbreaking program that has served as a platform for Arizona's Latino community for more than 2 decades.
Latinos care about issues across the board, just like everyone else.
There's a lot of diversity in thought and opinion. We just need to make sure parents understand the value in having multilingual students.
We like to hear our voices heard. Stream episodes online at azpbs.org, YouTube, or on the PBS app.
In the spring of 1971, there was so much that was altered.
The new rules will be phased in from this year.
There was rage.
We know our rights.
And there was love.
You have a little girl.
And we marched together.
Quite something, isn't it, sister?
It is the future.
Sunday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
On Masterpiece.
For the last 15 years, I've been in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I intend on finding out why. And when I do, I'm going to punish those people responsible.
You're playing these people's lives.
They played with mine.
I'm planning revenge. Dig your own grave first.
I want justice.
The Count of Monte Cristo, a new series on Masterpiece.
Sunday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
Major League Baseball's regular season is fast approaching, with the Arizona Diamondbacks opening the season against the Dodgers next Thursday in L.A. The D-backs home opener is set for March 30th against the Detroit Tigers. For an update on the team, the stadium, and all things D-backs, we spoke earlier today with Steve Mullins, the Diamondbacks Executive Vice President of Business Operations and Chief Commercial Officer. Steve Mullins, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here. Thoughts as the regular season approacheth?
Well, I think we're excited. I mean, baseball's in the air, right? So it's just fun. I mean, we've been watching the World Baseball Classic. Obviously, that gets us all excited about baseball. You've seen a lot of the Diamondbacks players play for other other countries and done really well there. And, as we think about just the season up ahead of us and just the team itself, we've got this great group of core players have been with us for a while, and I think we're just ready to keep competing and keep winning and doing well.
Let's talk about the World Baseball Classic. Does it help or hurt to have so many Diamondbacks players? There were a lot of Diamondbacks players on different teams.
I think that depends on who you ask. I mean, I think the managers and the coaches want to obviously manage spring training and get through it with their guys and work on certain things. But when you get an opportunity to play on such a large scale like that, I mean, it almost expedites the season to a point, right? I mean, we had 12 players that were playing in high-level games and high-impact games, and you saw them perform at such a high level. So I think from my perspective, it just gives us encouragement that these guys are ready to go when the regular season hits. But it definitely was fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was kind of encouraging to see some of these players do some of the things that they did. The off-season, I know that the owner, Ken Kendrick, made a point of saying that he thought the front office did a pretty good job this off-season, all things considered. What do we make of the off-season with the Diamondbacks and the changes that were made?
The offseason with the team itself?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got a team that's been really competitive for the last couple of years, and we've went to the World Series in 2023. We missed the playoffs by a three-way tie last year, and then missed it by a couple of games last year in spite of all the injuries. So I think when you look at it, the nucleus of players is just really fun to watch. They're really talented guys. We had 3 guys last year that were in the top 10 for the MVP voting, and so when you think about plugging in holes around that, I mean, obviously they wanted to address the bullpen, and they think they've done that, or they think they're doing that currently. Starting pitching looks great. Obviously, Merrill Kelly came back, and Zach Gallen came back. And then, midway through the season, we're going to get some relief, whether it's Corbin Burns coming back, or A.J. Puck, or even Martinez as well.
Yeah.
So I think, generally speaking, we've got a team that's really competitive, and I think the things they need to do in the offseason, they've addressed.
Yeah, with the injuries involved, and there were a lot of injuries, a lot of concern here. Has anything changed as far as the team's approach to training and these sorts of things to keep injuries at a minimum, or is that just baseball?
I think that's just part of the game. And unfortunately, these pitchers throw so hard, and they have such great velocity and all these different things on it, and torque on their arms and things like that. I mean, you see it across the board. So I'm not sure that they've done a lot of changes in the offseason as much as some of these things are just unavoidable at times.
Okay, and can we expect another Diamondbacks team that runs and hits and plays defense? We don't need beer league softball here. We back to the running and hitting and stealing kind of thing?
I think so, but I think, one of the things Torrey talked about in the offseason was our defense has always been really good, and so they're focused on defense. I think last year that was a little bit of where they took a step backwards from the year prior, and so when you've got an infield like Perdomo and Marte and guys like that, I think you really think you're going to solidify the infield. Then you've got Nolan obviously at third base and Santana at first, so I feel like they're going to make some changes there. So.
I still haven't seen Santana. I still haven't seen the guy play yet. I keep hearing the name. As far as the pitchers are concerned, I read somewhere that there's going to be more focus on the pitcher's strengths as opposed to concentrating on the batter's weaknesses. What does that mean?
I think just going out and dictating the game plan, right, and having them react to you versus reacting to them. We've got some pitchers with some really great stuff, and so, one of the things I heard the other day was even Zach Gallen, his fastball is 2 miles an hour faster than it was last year at this time, right? Mm-hmm. And so those guys are very talented. They know what to do. They've got game plans. And I think as long as they attack, obviously we'll be in a good spot.
Well, let's talk about the baseball stadium, because it sounds like the team's in a pretty good spot there, especially with the new law, the new funding mechanism. Talk to us about sales, income tax, how all that stuff now is funneled back into the stadium for repairs and maintenance and such.
Yeah, great question. So the way this works is that there's going to be an investment of about $500 million over the next 5 off seasons. It'll go back into modernizing the stadium. As you go around the country, there's different things that ballparks have. Ours is, almost 30 years old with not a lot of major capital improvements other than the maintenance things we've done over time. And so there needs to be an update there. There needs to be an upgrade, as far as just the fan experience, the seating capacities, the club levels they have, even the upper level and things like that. But at first, what you're probably going to see is a lot of things that are structural, whether it's, with the roof repair. This year, we just added a new scoreboard that's going to be phenomenal. It's 50% larger than the last one. And just for context, the last one was installed in 2007. So if you think about how much technology has changed over that time, we've installed 2 new LED boards that'll make digital signage. And then last year, we put in a sound system and lighting system. So the fans will start to experience something quite, upgraded here as soon as the season.
Yeah, that's the fan experience. But as far as the building experience, like an air conditioning pipe, I think the owner mentioned those too. Sounds like those things need to be replaced.
They do, and we're working on it. Yeah, absolutely. So those are top of the priority list, right? Like you got to redo the roof at some point too. And we're so used to when those cool summer nights come and opening the roof so fans can experience that after the 5th inning, et cetera. Air conditioning unit as well. There are expectations in Arizona and indoor facilities, especially in the summer, that those things are all operating the way they should.
Foundational repairs, these sorts of things as well.
Absolutely.
I have to ask you, because we covered this topic a lot on this program, and we had pro and con as far as that bill and as far as the new funding mechanism. For those who are objected to using taxpayer money for this, especially when there's a billionaire owner, and we've talked about that as well. But from your perspective and what you want fans to hear, why was it important to get this done?
I just think there's so much economic value to having pro teams in the market. They talk about the impact it has on the community, which actually will lead to, this year we're celebrating $100 million in giving. So I think when you think about the impact that pro sports teams have on a community and the facilities that they're used to, and the pride in the city that it has, it makes sense that obviously we would invest in that. And this building is dated and it's old, and so it does need those repairs and those things over time.
All right, Steve Mullins, we got baseball coming up here. It's good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
48 Women is an Arizona Centennial Legacy initiative that recognizes Arizona women who are making an impact on their communities through leadership and commitment. 48 Arizona Women's latest celebration includes a collaboration with the Arizona Historical Society and America 250. Joining us now is Rosie Rios, chair of America 250, and also with us Connie Robinson, chair of 48 Arizona Women. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start, Connie, I'm going to start with you because you're Arizona, you're the Arizona, I know you're the big deal, we're going to get to you in a second here. But 48 Arizona Women, to give me a better definition.
So a great definition of 48 Arizona Women is remarkable women across our state who are transforming lives, communities, making our communities stronger and more vibrant through their leadership.
And this has been a commission for how long now?
It'll be 15 years in 2027, so since 2010.
Wow. All right. America 250, Rosie Rios, we see it all over the place. What is America 250?
America 250 is a national organization charged by Congress to plan the nation's 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence this year.
And the goal is what?
The goal is to, what really drove our commission, which is all appointed by Congress, is to educate, engage, and unite. And we have chosen to focus on values-based programming that also inspires the next generation of leadership.
Okay, Connie, the collaboration with America 250, how's all this working?
It's working beautifully in terms of really collaborating, pulling together what's happening across our United States and what's happening here in Arizona. Women who, again, are mentoring young girls, changing the lives of the next generation. We have programs where we reach rural communities. We have programs where we, again, are STEM programs. We have programs on aerospace. Women in leadership to change lives, making communities more vibrant.
Yeah, and America 250 now is a national organization. You got programs too.
Absolutely. And what we did intentionally when I became chair almost 4 years ago is we made sure that we were going to establish America 250 commissions in all 56 parts of our country. So that's the 50 states, D.C., and the 5 territories. So that either happens by either state legislation or executive order of the governor. Try doing that in one state.
Oh boy, yeah.
We did it in all 56 parts of our country by the end of 2024.
And Arizona, easy to work with?
Absolutely. Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I want to hear, Connie. Easy to work with.
Easy to work with.
Yeah. As far as programs, I see America Gives, America's Startup, and America's Field Trip.
Yes.
What are those?
So America's Field Trip was one of our first national signature programs that we did. This was our third round. It's a national student competition for grades 3 through 12 who get to answer the question, what does America mean to you? And in exchange, the winners get to choose from a series of backstage experiences, most of which have never been offered to the public before, and most of which are federal agencies. So it includes the national park systems. It includes the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian, the National Archives. So I'll just give you one example. So when I participated in the New York trip, it wasn't just a tour of the Statue of Liberty. We literally took the National Park Service boat from Manhattan Island to Liberty Island. We got up to the Crown, which doesn't happen on the public tour.
Yeah.
We got to see the hallowed halls of Ellis Island when no one else was there. We were hosted for lunch by the CEO of BNY. We got to see the markets room, the trading floor, the cybersecurity command center. We ended the day at the New York Federal Reserve getting an overview of monetary policy and then getting into the vault, into deep storage. For many of these kids, first time on a plane, first time out of their state, first time on a family vacation.
What about Arizona? What would the Arizona trip look like?
Oh, well, we're looking at all kinds of things. And so we have dozens of proposals that are given every year. We always have to look at kind of what's accessible, what is likely the kids are going to choose across the board. So there will be many more to come.
Yeah, 48 Arizona Women, obviously, been around a while. We know what you do, and as far as the emphasis there. But with America 250 now here, and with this very important year as far as America's history is concerned, how do things change?
How do things change? We are renovating a theater at the Arizona Historical Society that will be called the 48 Women Theater. The change will be not only just mentoring, but we have a place, we have a building, some place to go where we can, again, do training programs, where we can reach rural native lands. That's the America 250 that we are leaning towards in terms of how do we continue to enhance our programs.
And we have an event tomorrow, correct?
We have an event tomorrow at the Arizona Historical Society. It's in conjunction with the Maricopa County Medical Society and America 250. The program begins at 11 a.m. We have speakers from across the state, including speakers from Congressman Greg Stanton, Secretary Adrian Fontes, and of course Ambassador Barbara Barrett.
And I think, Rosie, aren't you going to be speaking?
I am speaking.
Real quickly, what's the message?
Well, the message is, I mean, look, this 250th milestone only comes for many of us, you know, for us twice in a lifetime, but for some of us once in a lifetime. And so how do we use this moment to really create this movement that'll last long after 2026? And here's my thing. People ask me all the time, how do you know you're going to be successful in 2026? My answer is the same. I want as many Americans as possible to feel like this is a land of opportunity all over again. And I want to reclaim our patriotism. You could still love your country and want it to be more perfect, exactly as our founding fathers envisioned.
Rosie Rios, Chair of America 250, and Connie Robinson, Chair of 48 Arizona Women. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much, and best of luck on the event tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
When you want to be more adventurous, Arizona PBS delivers the wonders of the world, thanks to financial support from you and
Primavera Online School now offers kindergarten through 5th grade.